What's up, everybody? Welcome to this episode of Forward to Extraordinary, a part of the Strictly from Nowhere podcast experiment. I'm your host, Justin Abrams, a serial entrepreneur in pursuit of wisdom with the goal of sharing it with all of you. And today is no different. You know, one of the topics I think you all know, I've been talking about this a lot lately. It's not about clipping, although clipping might have something to do with this. We'll see if we can get there. It really has to do with the new economy, the new currency, which is really about attention. It is all about distribution. It is all about capturing an audience. It is all about the ability to distribute an idea, a product, a service, a solution. And so I love bringing on experts that have domain expertise in some of these categories, especially in ones that I do not have experience in professionally. And so before we get into it for today, as I always do, I love pointing out and stitching together the network. Shout out to my buddy, James Kalisher of Wonderfish. I wouldn't be having this episode without you. I know my guests today and James are good friends and go way back. We'll have that conversation if it's appropriate, but tip of the hat to you, brother. You know, my guest for today, I don't even know how to make an introduction for somebody so multifaceted that's done so much. Things that you have all probably held your hands on, things that you've experienced in your own living rooms and around the world. And so, as I always do, I'm going to give the floor to my guest, Chris Fenton. Welcome to this episode of Forward to Extraordinary. I can't wait to unpack your zero to market experience.
Love it. You have the face for the movie screen and the voice for radio. I love it. I'm just a voice for radio, unfortunately. Yeah, and shout out to James for putting us together. I appreciate it. And actually, if we're going to be talking about how to capture attention and distribution, sort of what you said about me is ultimately the most negative facet of what I think has been a ridiculously awesome, colorful journey for me at 55 years old. I mean, the last thing you ever want to be just in life in general, I think, is a jack of all trades and master of none. I mean, I think there's always, if you want to excel in life, you need to figure out what is that certain niche you can actually master. And like my dad always told me, is like, if you can be best in the world at anything, you can make a great career out of it. And, that was always my goal, is to try to figure out what I really had as a superhero strength. But along that way and along that process of learning it, I did a lot of really interesting things, mainly because it just sort of happened to me as I was living a life that I think was out there trying to create as many opportunities as possible, and then trying to find the one that was the best one to chase. In a nutshell, I was an engineering grad at Cornell University in upstate New York. I graduated in 1993. The economy was not very good back then. I don't know how you would relate it to today. It's obviously apples and oranges in a lot of ways, but it was one of the few, these high-end engineering schools tend to be theoretical rather than applied. So I had a theoretical engineering degree, and when economies are not good, people don't really want thinkers and people that know how to think. They want people that can actually sit in front of the machine and get it to work. So I didn't have a great job opportunity coming out of school, so I spent about 9 months traveling the country and staying in my fraternity across the way at various schools. I think I hit, roughly 100 different schools, spent 9 months trying to find a place I wanted to settle down. The only two places in the country that were thriving at the time were Seattle. There's, a little company called Amazon and Starbucks up there that were starting to take off. And believe it or not, Las Vegas. They were trying to make this push into family entertainment and gaming space. So I ended up in Vegas, and I was in blackjack dealing school there, just trying to figure out what I wanted to do next. And a buddy of mine in LA said, "Hey, my roommate moved out. Will you come live out here?" And I was like, "Oh, well, no one's living in LA at that time." They had the fires, the floods, the recession was at its peak. They were about to move into an earthquake that I wasn't aware of. And then you had O.J. Simpson. There was just no reason to live in LA. But I came and visited, and I never left. Fell in love with it, 72 and sunny, you get the whole story. But yes, we definitely have our issues out here in California. And I started playing in this basketball league at the YMCA. Little did I know, in Beverly Hills, dumpy little YMCA right in the heart of Beverly Hills. And little did I know it was like the heartbeat of all young Hollywood. And I learned about this business called the Wall Street of the 90s, which was Hollywood. And there were a lot of really interesting facets about the Hollywood ecosystem I had no idea about growing up on the East Coast and only knowing about actors and directors. I didn't know there was a whole machine behind the whole community. And as I got to know people in the business, I realized I wanted to get in. The only way to do that is sort of a wax on, wax off process. I got my job at the mailroom at the William Morris Agency, which was the largest agency in the world and had been for a century. Did that sort of Mr. Miyagi stuff of doing a lot of different things that seemed like a waste of time, but it turned out it was teaching you a lot about how the process worked. Made myself the youngest agent at that agency at the age of 24, and held that title for several years, which was sort of cool, and worked in television and film, and eventually 10 years in, I got fired when a new round of management came in and they sort of got rid of a lot of people. And that, to me, I think if you look at probably a seminal moment in the way I looked at life, it was, wow, if I think about it, in college, I didn't initially get into the fraternity house I wanted to get into. It seemed devastating. And then you have to figure out how you want to crawl back from that. And then this sort of firing was the next one that obviously seemed a lot more serious in the scheme of things. But it was another one of these setbacks where I was miserable for a good month because I really thought, like a lot of people, you went and worked at the same place, you thrived, and you raised to the top eventually someday. This idea of switching roles wasn't really, common back then. And I gathered myself back up and started a business with another guy named Walter Hamada, who went on to be the chairman of DC Films and a bunch of other things. And we created a really thriving sort of boutique version of what I was doing at the largest agency in the world. And ultimately, I had an opportunity with a client who was out of China to start talking about whether I wanted to get fully integrated to what they were doing on the other side of the Pacific. And as I got to know more and more about what they were doing, particularly in the film, television, music, sports, entertainment space, the more intrigued I got. And when I hit the ground over there for the first time in 2001, I think it was, the official bird was the crane over there because everything was under construction. You literally had to wear a hard hat everywhere. And it was just hard for me to look at it and go, oh, there's not an opportunity here. In fact, it looked like it was a major opportunity. So, longer story, hopefully short, in 2008, we started talking about them buying the company that I had built with this other partner. Eventually, we sold it after very long negotiations because it takes a long time to negotiate anything with the Chinese. And after a few years, in 2014, we went public. We had a market cap of $8.6 billion. So anyway, that sort of kicks off a little bit of my background, and hopefully we can wing it from there.
I have like 50 different paths that I could go down from the introduction, but I think I'm going to pick two. You'll bob and weave with me. The first one is really the pursuit of mastery. I talk about that all the time because your dad's advice about if you can become really great at one thing, best in the world at one thing, you'll have purpose forever. You'll have purpose, you'll have fuel, you'll have employment, you'll have all of these things. So I'd love to have more of a conversation on what it means to actually pursue mastery, weaving in kind of what you feel that you've become masterful in, because what I'm actually kind of hearing, the common thread through all of these is the buffalo walks into the storm, not away from it to get through it faster, making lemonade out of lemons. One door closes, another door opens, like all of these different little sayings and cliches that we've all been really accustomed to. It sounds like those have been golden tickets along the way. It's kind of uncovering opportunity as it reveals itself. And so I talk a lot about it on the show. My partner talks about it a lot on his show. We talk about the pursuit of opportunity, not passion. Oftentimes the things that we are passionate about, that door closes right in our face. We may even never get the opportunity to actually go pursue that in a professional capacity. But if we're open to generic opportunity, if we are attracting the things that we are capable of, that we're masterful at, that we're valuable at, well, amazing things kind of happen. And so I'd love to continue to unpack your story because it sounds like dad's wisdom kind of paid off. What do you think you've become truly masterful at?
So it's interesting because you think about like best in the world at anything, like you can make a career out of it. And my daughter sort of joked about that because I was telling them I have twin kids that are 19 years
Wow.
old. And one time I said, this is the advice my dad gave. And she's like, well, could you make a living out of being the best farter in the world? And I'm like, well,
Actually,
yeah, you can. I think if you're the best in the world, and lo and behold, of course, on Instagram, you doom scroll and you find somebody
exactly
that's
right.
like the best farter in the
That's
world,
exactly
and he's
right.
making plenty of money showing up at birthday parties or whatever it
Exactly
is.
right.
And you're like, okay, there you go.
Brand deals with
Um,
dude wipes or something, you can become
yeah,
super successful at that. Sure. Right.
exactly.
Point proven.
So, one of the things I talk about in my USC class is, especially now because I talk about the business. And my class is the business of cinematic arts. It's essentially trying to talk about the business behind the business, and I'm finding it's harder and harder to stay timely. You sort of got to start focusing on timelessness. Like, what are the timeless lessons you can teach these kids? Because if you're trying to keep up with what's timely in the world, you're screwed because it's changing so fast. So, one of the big principles I try to push on them is life is a lottery. But in particular, there's a lot of businesses, like say a vanity business, like the entertainment business, where cream doesn't always rise to the top. There's a lot more luck probably involved in the entertainment business than there are in others. Because you're 7'5", and athletic, there's a good chance, you won't need a lot of luck on your side to make an NBA team or whatever. If you're a Mensa 250 IQ, you might be a tech guru someday. But here you got to rely on it more. And there's a lot of businesses like that. So if it's like a lottery to win, then your goal should be just to own all the lottery tickets. Pretty easy, right? The reality is you'll never own all the lottery tickets. It's impossible to, but the more you can gather over your life, the better your chances are of surviving and succeeding. So we talk about what are lottery tickets. Well, a lot of times lottery tickets are simply meeting as many people as you can, listening as much as you can, networking as much as you can. Every person you meet is a lottery ticket. Every person they know is a potential lottery ticket if you have them introduce you to them. Everything you learn is a lottery ticket. Everything you try to invest time in to understand and master is a lottery ticket. And grind and grit and perseverance and the ability to overcome obstacles and understand you're going to have challenges in life and fail, understanding how to pull yourself back up and get back up on that horse. Those are lottery tickets. Those moments, everything that you experience is a moment that creates those lottery tickets, and you got to harvest them as much as possible. Part of that, as you gain those lottery tickets, is also trying to hone where your specialty is. So if you're asking me what my superhero power is, it's, well, number one is I have a lot of learned lessons from firsthand experience in me. But I've also been really cognizant of the term eventus stultorum magistar, which means the event is the schoolmaster of fools, or the fact is that fools learn from their own mistakes, wise men learn from the mistakes of others. So I do try to really pay attention to what others are doing and how it's working or not working, and try to understand that just as much as I'm trying to understand the stuff that I'm doing in day to day that is working and not working. Cut to today, my superhero strength is one that I think it seems so elementary to me, and I don't understand why it's a superhero strength, but it is. And that is the ability to look at individuals, particularly on another side of the table, and understand what they're trying to get out of anything, and essentially try to get what I need, or my company or my entity or whatever I'm representing, get them what they want, what we want, while making the other side feel like they got what they wanted. And that seems so obviously easy, but it's not. A lot of people don't put themselves in the head of the other side. They get too bubbled in their mentality, and they believe their mentality is the way the other person should have a worldview of. And I think that has to do with 25 years of working between the two most different countries on earth, the US and China, number one. The other thing is, and it's part of that, is when you are constructing a way to get what you want while also making the other side or the other challenges think that they got what they wanted, you have to construct narrative. You have to construct story, a story that works for them as well as all your constituents on your side. So a superhero strength to me is the ability to perceive, I think, a worldview or the challenges and obstacles and agenda of another side easier than others, to construct strategic narratives around what we are trying to accomplish. And then more so, and it's all sort of one superpower, is understanding that business strategy and strategic narrative messaging are both important and in fact can't live without each other. So a lot of times a company will have me come in and say, hey, can you help us build our story because we want to go pitch what we're doing to investors? Or can you help build our story so that we can write opinion pages about it? Or can you help build our story so we can get in the press and talk about what we're doing? And what's amazing about that is as I do it, I sort of look at their business and I'm going, well, I want to construct your story like this, but your business is sort of doing this, which isn't quite as amplified as it should be. So why you guys have the competencies here, you have the expertise, the talent, the resources to do this. Why don't we create your story and then back end that story into your strategy, right? So it's really about, in essence, storytelling. Yeah, I make movies. Like we have a movie coming out today called Bad Counselors. Go to badcounselors.com to get your tickets. That's a 3-act structure, story, narrative with plots, engine of characters, antagonists, protagonists, you name it. That's what movie business is. But every company has a strategy that needs to be told in a narrative and a story that can be told on a B2C level, on a B2B level. And a lot of times, as you know, in the tech side, it's got to be told on a B2 government level also. So what is that story? And does your business strategy, does your operation match it? And if not, can you get them both to match, to maximize it?
You know, you must have like a formula. Definitely don't give away the absolute secret sauce, but I'd love to know a little bit about the formula of packaging because, you know, you take the show, take my business, take whatever business comes top of mind, but there really is like a conflict between like where I want to go, where I am today, where I'm capable of going that maybe is a sector that I'm not even aware of that exists. You know, opportunity is only as good as what you can see or what comes your way. We were talking a lot about, you know, classically your network is your net worth, but it's actually more than that. It's like, what value do I actually have to give to my network? It's great to open conversations.
By the way, that is a huge key component.
Huge key
component because if you're going to activate your network to do something on your behalf, you have to have some currency to give back at some point. And like, I'll have like one of my kids or a student say, well, then is that really a friend? And I said, friends and network are very different. Like you have very good, true friends that you may need nothing in business from. You just need emotional support. You need that personal sort of connection, whatever that is. And those friends are that's a small group.
That's right.
Then you'll have business friends. You'll have business acquaintances. You'll have business completely transactional. I don't trust them. They don't trust me, but I can get something out of them if I can give them a hard currency to return, you know, and to return the favor with. So the bottom line is like, even with your closest friends, if you become the alcoholic addict who's constantly calling for money and constantly calling for all kinds of things that you need help with because you're just in dire straits all the time and you're just a take friend, even those close friends are eventually going to move away from you. So you have to have a currency that you can trade back. It doesn't have to be transactional at that moment. It just needs to be a trust that if hey, this long friendship, I'm willing to go to bat for this person because I know somewhere down the road, they're going to be able to return the favor to me, whether it's directly in business, whether it's directly in setting them up with their eventual wife or whatever it is. Like that is a transaction that has to be taken into account in any sort of networking.
It's an interesting side quest topic for us. We're gonna go deeper right now. Like people are like, well, what the hell is that currency? Like, are you actually talking about dollars? Are you talking about Bitcoin? Like in my brain, what you're actually talking about is listening, is empathy, is like a little bit of love, is like not passing judgment on whoever you're having a conversation with. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to have a skill set or a business or service, product, solution, whatever you need to offer. And that's kind of how I define the line between, I often say this, I don't have friends. I have brothers, like people I'm going to die for. I'll get the shovel if you mess up today. And then I have everybody else. And I don't even know how they fit in because I'm trying to be as valuable to whoever comes my way as I possibly can. And the exchange, that currency exchange, that's going to be different for every individual that I come into interaction with. Maybe one person, it's like that currency is an email introduction, like what James did for you and me. James and I are good buddies. You and James are good buddies, but you and I didn't even know each other. Just the exchange of that email, maybe it just transforms something for you and me. Maybe the future is bright. It's like, what is
Yeah.
the simple definition of currency? So I wonder from your perspective, like, what is the most valuable currency that, let's take young folks that are coming into an emerging market, like you don't have skill yet. So what's the most valuable currency that you can offer?
Well, I mean, humans do flourish in relationships without a perfectly tangible reason at
Sure.
times. But if you try to break it down, like what are the analytics that are going to best your chances to have a meaningful piece of your network, I think of the three I's, which I always pitch, which actually was an idea that was given to me by a guy named Eric Lokesmo about something completely different, but I've moved it into this whole owning all the tickets. And that's when you meet somebody, you should think of three I's in terms of why you should put time and resources into nurturing that relationship. Are they impressive to you? Yeah. I mean, is there something about them that impresses you? The second level is, can they be influential for you? Right? They might not be influential for you when you meet them. It might just be completely just impressive. Like, I love how truthful they are. I love their moral code. I love the way they interact with others. I love how caring or how much they listen to what I'm talking about. That's the impressive part. Or maybe they went to the greatest school ever and was the valedictorian. Whatever that impressive thing is that sort of gets you going. Someday you're betting on them that they'll be influential in your life somehow. Like, hey man, I just had a job interview. You're over there. I know you're just an assistant, but can you put in the good word to that, executive that, you know me and I'm a great person.
Yeah.
That's influential.
Yeah.
And then the final thing, and it's the hardest thing for anybody to achieve, but can they be impactful? Can they actually really impact your journey at some point during your life? And maybe it's helping you get a job, but it's more than that. Like, are they helping you shape a worldview? Are they helping you see things that make you flourish beyond dollars and cents? Are they mission driven? Do they share that mission with you that creates your mission in life? Because it can't just be about money. And that's the problem that I see so much now versus when I was growing up, right? Like, when I grew up in South Florida. The wealthiest people I knew, you usually had a doctor in front of their last name, or maybe they were a high-powered attorney, but you never really knew what they did as a lawyer, or maybe a handful of investment bankers, maybe, or real estate developer or something. But for the most part, people, at least around me, were middle class, upper middle class. They had 9 to 5 jobs. And the idea of flourishing, a live work balance. One parent was at home taking care of the kids. There was the vacations in the station wagon, all that kind of stuff. that seemed to be the life that people pursued. Now it seems to be all about, can I be the next billionaire on the Forbes list? Can I be the wealthiest person on earth? Can I follow what that influencer does and live that life someday? And that is 100% without a doubt not going to make you happy. 100%. If that is your chase, it will not allow you to flourish as an individual or as a human being. And no matter how much money you make, you're not going to create yourself to be happy. It's just not going to happen. You have to have a life purpose. And I even think about my China exploitations, right? Like my mission and purpose then, yes, I wanted to have a fruitful career. I wanted to make, a good amount of money. I never really thought about like, oh, I want to be a billionaire. I always thought about, hey, can I have like a house on the beach or nearby? Like, can I go on a ski trip when I want to? Can I have a relatively nice car? Although honestly, like I've lost that. Like I have a 2016 Range Rover and I won't get rid of it.
It's fun, right?
Like I just, I'm like my dad. I'm like, I own cars for 10 years. Like I always was like, why do you have a car this long? It's, it was never the drive I had. I wanted something really interesting. I wanted to be able to talk about it with others and have people go, wow, you do something really cool. But when the China thing happened, I fell under the spell of Kissinger and Nixon in 1971, opened up a frozen relationship with the other soon-to-be superpower. That frozen relationship, if it wasn't opened, would have led to probably war many years ago. Then it opened up trade relations in 1979, and then the idea of getting our products and services into that country inspired us because there was a mission and purpose of growing GDP here in the US, creating jobs, and then on top of it, spreading the aspirational quality of democracy inside of a communist country through the subtle, soft power of our products and services getting in there, right? That was a mission that guided me and 99% of the other people in the world of capitalism between the two countries. That was 100% it. There were 1% I know that were about selling out the best interests of the United States to make $1. There was definitely those people. But for the most part, we saw a fruitful, colorful career that had a higher calling. And that's the same thing that I chase all the time. It's like, what is the higher calling that we're involved with? Like right now, like one of my biggest clients is Loam Entertainment. We made this movie behind me. The movies we're making call for something greater. We want people to watch a fun, entertaining, engaging, emotional experience in a theater or on their screen. And at the end of it, have a call for something greater. Like I was involved with the original Friday Night Lights movie back in 2004. I watched it again on a plane as I was stuck on the tarmac in JFK on Saturday night for 3 hours. And oh my gosh, I was like, this movie makes me cry every time,
Totally
and they don't even win the game at the end. Sorry, spoiler alert. But there's so many moments in there that touch you, and you're just like, I want to keep making those kind of movies because that creates human flourishing. It creates a togetherness and a communal experience like a theater. It brings our country together in a lot of ways. It's got an emotional core to it. But the bottom line is you got to have something that's a bigger driver in your life than just to make money. You just can't find happiness that way. I can tell you, I've seen it every which way every which way. No one has found happiness just driven for money.
I'm so happy you brought up the topic, and it's a great segue into how people can continue to learn from you. I know you got a lot of stuff going on. I know you have your own podcast where I'm sure that you're compounding on these types of conversations and putting your own wisdom out there. As we round third base, I always like to end with this one question. These conversations often drum up something that you would be remiss not to talk about on the show. I would hate for us to walk away and for you to be like, man, I wish we would have covered that topic. So now is that time. And I would also love you to include where can people continue to learn from you and participate in the things that you believe in?
Perfect. Well, great question, because I was about to interrupt you and then I saw you were going to give me the opening. So Here's the thing that I think it's not troubling to me, but it's a puzzle I haven't solved. And that is, I understand the human side of creating a brand, creating the ability to translate and transmit to others in a network I'm always trying to build. The fact that, you know, and you don't want to just blurt it out. You just sort of have to talk about world experience and it comes up naturally. But I know I can be impressive enough to people to go, ooh, this is somebody I want to put some time and effort into. I know I can be influential in a lot of ways. And I also know over time, I can be impactful, um, particularly with people that are sort of at the same level as me. I can't be directly impactful by myself. The two of us or that relationship will have impact on each other some way or another. And that combined impact will allow me to say, hey, I was impactful to you and you were impactful to me. There's like that give and take. I get it on a human level. I also get how to brand myself on a human level. Like superpower, it's really storytelling. Well, storytelling. Okay, so you tell a story. No, no, no. I can tell a story in ways that can help your company. I can use those stories to help what you're doing as a company. And I can help you get that word out, whether you're trying to raise money or trying to work on a consumer side, whatever that is. Where I can't figure it out, and I don't know if I'm sure you have more than I have. And I've talked to James about this too. I have not figured out how to translate that to machines and to algorithms, right? I am stuck you're asking where people can find me. I'm on Twitter or X at the Dragon Feeder. That's the handle I use. On Instagram, I'm at feeding the dragon, but there's a dot between the feeding and the in those three words. And I'm on YouTube, but I don't really do a lot of videos yet. But I'm starting to, when I have some spare time, starting to experiment with that. LinkedIn also, James is very prolific on LinkedIn. I can't figure out how something that I think is really important, something that I have so much passion about talking about or displaying or presenting. I can't figure out why 99% of the time no one seems to care about it, right? Like algorithmic push drive, like wrong keywords, wrong hashtag, subject just isn't, you know, baiting enough. Like, what is it? Why don't people care about what I think is really passionate from my heart, that's super constructive about things? Like, why can't I crack that nut? And it drives me crazy. And I know it drives others crazy. And I think it is a real problem because I'm noticing now that the people that have harvested the power of making everybody take notice, of putting their attention into it, of things going viral, whatever that is, they are not in touch with the human side of it. Like they are focused fully on the machine side. And maybe that's the way the future is going. I don't know. If it is, I'm a little nervous. Okay. Why can't I figure out that human machine combo that makes the stories or the messaging or the narrative or the points of view, the perspectives, the worldview that I'm trying to convey take residency beyond essentially the followings that are.
Man, well, it's the contemplation of my life, considering I basically make content absolutely for a living and distribution is king. It's kind of how we started the conversation in the first place. But man, do I have a lot of repetitions in this topic. I think what's really interesting is I had a lot of cliches on this show for today, but I'll leave us with another one, which is like, if you keep your eyes on the meridian, you'll crash. If you keep your eyes on your road, you'll probably get to your destination. And so you can imagine, I'm sure maybe you can, like I am watching every other content creator, long form style podcast host, other folks that seem to have more penetration, more adoption, more engagement, more creative, more whatever. But man, does that steal my freaking peace? Like I'm up at like 2:30 in the morning, just consuming from an education's perspective, just consuming, trying to figure out what the heck is the golden move, because it's well within my ability, whatever the talent is, like whatever the skill set is required to actually penetrate attention, I can do. I can either pay for it, I can do it my damn self, I can learn. Like there is nothing that is that is outside of my ability. But how easy it is to get derailed from my mission. My mission with creating this show was to leave a legacy that my grandfather was not able to leave as a 50-year businessman. He was unable to catalog his journey through entrepreneurship. It just didn't exist. He would have had to handwrite it. That was the only option, the typewriter. He would have had to handwrite his experiences. My mission was to collect as much wisdom as I possibly could and leave a legacy for other business entrepreneurs. Every time I lose sight of that and chase an algorithm, cool, I'll have a spike over here, but I can't replicate that. That's not a formula. That's like one dopamine hit. And so for me, every time I kind of take my eyes off the road and like chase a new way of kind of penetrating the algorithm, a new way of capturing some attention, a new way of providing value to somebody, it feels temporary. It feels limited. It feels like it's not the actual currency that people want from Cousin Justin. What people want from Cousin Justin is my superpower is making you feel like you're a freaking superhand. That's my superpower, is walking into a room and making everybody there feel like they are capable of more than they actually are. Good or bad. It's entirely positive. It is entirely filled with hope and potential and what you could possibly do if you applied. And so every time I lose the plot of that, I feel like a charlatan. Every time I kind of lose the focus of what my priorities are in kind of making and distributing this show, I feel like I'm an imposter. I'm really attuned to all of that. It's like very interesting that you bring that up, because every time I try to crack the code or chase what other creator seems to have cracked the code, man, we have no idea what the hell is going on between that. Are they even breaking even? Do they run a profitable business and are
Well,
sustainable?
I mean,
I don't know.
That's something I'm noticing. And you talk about distribution. Like we had an opportunity with this movie. It's a small, so go to badcounselors.com if you want to go see this movie.
In the show notes.
It's a family comedy, PG-13, great for kids, probably a little older than 5, but I would say like 8, 9 with their parents can enjoy it all the way through college, because we tested it in college campuses. But it was an independent. So the idea of ever making it for a theatrical release, and we're going to be in 700 theaters across the country starting tomorrow, but we're previewing tonight. The idea that it would be in theaters was not what we were chasing, because that was a pipe dream.
Right.
But the fact is, we made a movie that turned out really good. Cinemark, Regal and AMC and Fathom Entertainment are releasing it.
Wow.
But we wanted to control the spend on it, as far as what we were doing marketing was, because we wanted to recoup as much as we could without some sort of weird waterfall like bloatedness. So,
Sure.
I do notice inorganic growth versus organic growth. The algorithms in the social media platforms are set up to be paid to help you, for sure. But I have seen also that that organic growth can occur. One of the things that I was told in my early days, especially when my book came out in 2020, is like, you need to be harder on China. You need to go at it about like organ harvesting and all this other stuff, right? Because that will get you clicks, blah, blah, blah. And I said, there's a lot of stuff that I don't want to talk about with China, because I honestly don't know enough about it to get into it. And I don't want to throw around red meat and live by the sword, right? Because if I don't believe in it, I'm going to get caught and it's going to look bad. It's not going to look genuine or authentic. So I want to always be constructive about it. I want to know what I'm talking about, all that kind of stuff. And I've noticed that severely limits how fast you grow, for sure. And on top of it, I don't just like to scream out there about something. Like if I got an issue, I want to provide solutions. I want to be constructive about it. And that's something that people normally aren't chasing when they're on social media scrolling. So there is that, oh yeah, there are ways you could amplify it organically by going out of your comfort zone or being fake or whatever it is. And I do see that a lot, but I also see those people disappear into the ether really fast. I find myself drawn. There's one particular influencer on Instagram that I thought was the funniest thing ever, like 2 weeks ago, because he had this sort of shtick. And then of course I started following him, and 2 weeks after the fact, I'm like, oh,
Totally.
this is the same thing. Like, I don't understand how all these people are still watching him and he's growing. But like, anyway, that's and then every once in a while I'm reminded on Joe Rogan, because I like listening to his show, those long
Same.
forms, and I hate the fact that he's been like extremed by like branding, right? Which is ridiculous. He's just a curious guy who has really interesting guests on all the time. Um, and he always reminds that like he started that thing what in like 2008, and no one listened to it for like the first 5 years. Like
Right.
it's really about consistency and being out there. So
That's
my
right.
wife and I you talked about it, Plate and Ponder, Empty Nesting with Jen and Chris Fenton. And what I was trying to do with that is we empty nested last year because our kids went off to college. So, and we didn't want to play pickleball all day. So we were like, I was like, hey, I have clients always asking me about this stuff, and I should be learning practically by doing it hands on, like how you build audience and all that. I was like, let's do a podcast together. You pick the topic. I'll figure out how to pull myself into it. So she was like, well, let's talk about empty nesting and all the trials and tribulations of that, because people go through it. And, I can come from the mom point of view and you're the dad, husband, wife, whatever. And I was like, great. And then every episode, maybe we have something that's a little expert in it that I can talk about too, that sort of lets me play in the sandbox that I'm good at. A lot of times it brings it into politics or China or something like that, or the entertainment business, but it allows me to pull it in. But, that's 10 minutes of the 35, right? Or maybe 15 minutes of the 35. The other 20 is talking about like, oh my God, it's so crazy this weekend. We had to go to this event and this event. And we were supposed to be empty nesting, but more chaos because the kids are back in town for the holiday or whatever it is, and it's been interesting to watch how that is starting to build. It takes a long time, but what's interesting is we're in 76 markets now, which is crazy, right? And I didn't even know there were that many countries actually, and then on top of it, you can see where the downloads are happening best. Actually would argue downloading is a bad measurement. It should be actually like who's listening, because I don't download anything when I'm listening to a podcast. So I don't know why that is a metric, but just to see as many downloads is sort of crazy, because I'm like, who the heck downloads an episode? But it's been an interesting process, and I'm sure you're watching the same thing as you build this. And I'll tell you one thing, like my wife gets frustrated because, you get offered some ads, but they're like terrible. You don't want to put them on there unless it's something substantial that's interesting. You don't need a cryptocurrency on there or whatever it is, but it's also frustrating. It's like, wait, she was the other night, she's like, we've done 77 episodes since like early October. How come we haven't had like Pepsi approach us? And I'm like, Jen, it takes a while. Like they're not interested in, yeah, we have a good following and a good amount of engagement, but like, we got to keep building on it. And it doesn't happen overnight. There's a reason why only a handful are actually successful. It's like, if it was really easy, everybody would be doing it. And actually, quite frankly, everybody is doing it. But it's interesting to watch. Oh, yeah, I heard so-and-so did a podcast, and you go onto Apple and you realize, oh, they did it for 3 months and gave up. It's sort of like one of those things.
It's consistency is really actually the hard part of all of this. It's quite easy to just spin up a podcast, the tooling that's available to everybody or whatever it is, even if you wanted to create content for social or whatever you might want to do, even to make a movie. If you wanted to just submit something to a film festival right here on Long Island, 7 minutes, it's probably 2 hours of raw footage, cut into a 7-minute short. The barrier to entry to most things is actually not the problem. It's the consistency to proliferation. Like,
Yep.
what are the right repetitions to do? What are the right things that I need to do in order to make this show attractive to Pepsi?
Well, it's
And
like the 10,000 hour rule, right? I mean, in a way, and a lot of guys just say part of success is just showing up, right? So, and I know you want to, we're running out of time. So the one other thing I want to bring up, because you brought it up earlier, and I can't remember if you brought it up on the podcast or not, or when we were shooting the crap beforehand. But one thing about this movie, Bad Counselors, that's really important to know is that we made it 100% American made, and I know that you're focused on that initiative too.
Sir.
And we had 1,200 people work on this movie, all Americans. It was not a California and Los Angeles made film, which, by the way, I make plenty of them out here. But I'm also aware that a lot of people have a distaste for California and Los Angeles and sort of the word Hollywood. So it's important to know that our manufacturing complex that makes film and television employs 3 million Americans across the nation when it's healthy. It's very unhealthy right now. In fact, 60% of our manufacturing is done offshore now. The wages for those 3 million is $250 billion, if you can believe it. The biggest hubs are outside of California. 80% is done outside of California, Georgia being one of the biggest. We're talking Georgia, Tennessee, North Carolina. We shot this movie in North Carolina. So one thing about supporting this film is that you are supporting an American-made product. And quite frankly, I think the quality of the film, especially given the very low budget we made it with, is there because it's fully American-made. And I am not anti-immigration. I am a globalist as long as we put America first. I've worked with China and the Middle East and all that kind of stuff. I just believe in putting on my American jersey because I am American and competing on the playing field that is the globe as an American, as somebody that wants to do everything possible for the American team to win. But when we're not in a competitive environment and we're just networking, human flourishing, meeting people, creating the journey that is life, I take that jersey off. And if you're from, Pakistan, or you're from Argentina, or you're from Germany, you can be my best friend. I have no problem with that. You can immigrate here to the United States if you want to be a part of this team too. I'm all good with that too. But we have to support the team that we're a part of. And that's why I'm also very proud of this movie, especially after working between the US and China for so long.
It's a battle cry, right? Like it's something for me that we're super proud of, right? To solve American business problems with American talent. Like, I don't say that lightly. I say that with like such a mission behind me. It's so important to like remember what we're doing here at home. It's given us everything and every opportunity. My goal as a businessman is to give back to where I come from. And I keep it even super hyper local, right? Like so much of what we do is like right here where I live and breathe. I want to be able to make a business that is a community leader that gives back to my absolute mom and pop, the main street of where I grew up. That's an important piece of it for me. Chris, I think we're super aligned in a lot of stuff, and I've learned a lot from our conversation for today. Of course, we could keep that going forever, but I think we'll lose the attention, as you know, from running a podcast.
I apologize. We went over time. So
hey, it's no problem at all. It is no problem at all. I love learning, and I learned a lot from you, and I wish you forward to extraordinary and whatever it is that you chase.
Thank you, Justin. Thanks for having me on. Happy to come back anytime, and thanks, James, for putting us together.
Hell yeah. Yeah, likewise. You take care of yourself.